Maybe. There we go. All right. Excellent. All right. So let's start over. My name is Dan Porter. I'm the Workforce Board Director in the Chemung, Schuyler, and Steuben County Workforce Development Area down here in the southern tier. I got a feedback in this end a little bit, so I don't know someone's feedback. So I am the director here, and I'd like to welcome you all to the initial kickoff meeting for the Chemung, Schuyler, Steuben Workforce Areas MOA, Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, meeting and planning session of the partners. So everyone here has been identified or identified themselves as members of one of the required mandated WIOA partnerships operating or having coverage in the Chemung, Schuyler, Steuben workforce area. And I know some of you are brand new since our last round of fun and foofara with the MOUs, and some of you are grizzled experts at this process. I look forward to it, having this conversation, kind of moving through this. I will say, just on a side note, the state interagency team, I think, having been through the MOU process from 1997-ish until current in the various iterations, I will tell you that I think this process should make it as easy as I've seen in all of the processes in all my years of doing this. So I'm actually looking forward to getting this done. So that's who I am. I do have a couple of members of my staff on board. You've heard me talk about Melissa Johnson. I'll let her introduce herself, but her role here really is going to be the linchpin of keeping the communications. So she'll be setting up meetings, she'll be preparing minutes, she'll be recording the sessions. If you want other people added to the distribution lists at your end, Mel would be the person to ask, and she'll make sure all of their names and emails and things are on the distribution so that we can do stuff and keep everyone in marching forward in tandem. So that's who I am. I guess just for simplicity's sake, I'll kind of go through my Hollywood squares here on my screen. And if you could take a minute and just kind of introduce yourself and what agency you're with, that would be really appreciated. So Christopher Fernando, you are at the top center. If you could introduce yourself. And you'll need to unmute. There you go.
Absolutely. Had to go find the mute. I didn't expect to be first. Daniel, good to meet you. My name is Chris Fernando. I am Supervisor of Higher Education Programs in the Office of Higher Ed at the New York State Education Department. And if you need any more information, let me know.
Welcome. Thank you. Ms. Rasu, you're next on my screen.
Sally Rasu. I'm Employment and Training Programs Manager here and at ProAction, and I oversee the TANF and CSEP programs.
Excellent. All right, so Jeffrey Moretti.
Hi, I'm a manager of the Perkins Grant on the post-secondary level at the State Education Department.
Brad Arcangelo.
Welcome, Jeffrey.
Is now joining.
Beth Stranges.
Hi, I'm Beth Stranges. I am the Director of Temporary Assistance here for Chemung County Department of Social Services.
Jeffrey Lewis.
Yeah, Jeffrey Lewis with Pastone Corporation. I'm involved in the delivery of workforce development programs for migrant and seasonal farm workers in New York, Vermont, Ohio, and Puerto Rico.
Excellent. Cool. So Phyllis Ballier.
Yes, Deputy Director of Chemung, Schuyler, Steuben Workforce, New York.
And I will do the 518 number, I think, is you, Vicki, or if there's anyone else on your team that wants to weigh in.
Sure. So my name is Vicki Mockler. I work at the Department of Labor, so I'm going to be your Title III. Between Steve Ryan and myself, we will be the Title III representative on the team for Wagner Pizer. Steve oversees both our Career Center operations as well as our business engagement units, and I kind of support Steve in his role. So that's how we'll fit into this picture.
Good. Patricia Stovall-Lane.
Hi,
Hi, everyone. I am Patricia Stovall-Lane and have been working in this process for probably about 15, 17 years. I am Executive Director for Workforce Development in New York, Vermont, and Ohio. We do cover those areas for in Elmira, so in Bath, in those areas for farm work, and we do it by referral. Our offices are located in those areas.
Is now joining.
Sorry for that step over, Patricia. Welcome.
Thank you.
A 535-8303 that feels like a Schuyler County number. Is that Joanne?
Yes, it's me. I'm sorry, I couldn't get in video.
No worries. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep. Joanne Fred Arcangelo, Commissioner of Social Services, Schuyler County.
Welcome. All right, let's see. I have a Catherine Mueller.
Hi, good afternoon. Kathy Muller. I'm the Social Services Commissioner for Steuben County.
Welcome. All right, let's see. We did Chris. The beauty of Teams is it keeps boogering up the order. So Nestor Leone.
Good afternoon. I'm Nestor Leone from the Workplace. I'm Vice President of Operations, and we are the operator provider for the CSS Workforce Service Delivery area.
Welcome. So Lise Reynolds.
Hello, this is Lise Reynolds. I am Deputy Commissioner for Steuben County Department of Social Services.
Welcome. Shelley Madden.
Hello, I'm Shelley Madden. I'm with the Workplace, and I am the System Manager over the 4 career centers in Steuben, Schuyler, and Chemung counties.
Welcome. All right, Chris Kuhn.
Hi, I'm Oneonta Job Corps Director.
Welcome. And last, by my count anyways, is John Frisch.
Last but not least, right?
Certainly not least.
Hi, everybody. John Frisch, OA CTS Manager at Oneonta Job Corps.
Excellent. So did I miss everybody with teams shuffling around, or did I get everyone?
Dan, this is Stacy Carollo down in Elmira from the Department of Labor. I apologize. I'm trying to join via phone.
Oh, welcome, Stacy. I didn't see you sneak in there. I don't know what number you're on, but excellent. Welcome.
Thank you.
So today's mission, welcome everybody again. So today really is the kickoff conversation to establish the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding for the Chemung, Schuyler, Steuben workforce area. As we all know, this is a required process by Congress under the WIOA Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. So we are all titled partners, either negotiators or signatories or service providers or the WIB. So we all have a role to play in this process and kind of making this happen. This is a required process under the WIOA legislation. And again, like I mentioned earlier, in reading through this, I think the statewide team that helped design this, I think they did an admirable job in making this much more simple than any other WI or MOU effort, whether it's under WIA or WIOA that I've at least been involved in myself. So I'm looking forward to doing this. Please feel free at any point during this process to kind of interrupt and ask questions. I've got a few different slides I kind of want to work through here just to kind of catch us all up to date and get us all at a certain base level. And then we'll kind of go from there. So first things first, let me see if I can share my screen real quick here. And a couple of resources I want to kind of point out to everybody. So if you go to the New York State Department of Labor's website, you can see it here. All of our resources, the Department of Labor is keeping it all on their website right here under local MOU resources. So if you're looking for original documents on there, please feel free to reference that. That will be the state's repository for the latest iteration of all the different forms and whatnot. So that's on there. Additionally, what I would like to point out is this is the CSS Workforce New York website under the About Us tab right here at the top. You'll see we've added a section here, MOU Partnership 2020 to 2023. We're also going to be placing the documents up here. What we'll also be putting up here is links to minutes, as well as you all noticed on here, this meeting is being recorded. We'll actually put recordings up on here as well. So that if we have partners that miss some of the conversation or want to go back and say, well, you know, I think we talked about this, that other thing, there'll be both minutes as well as the actual recordings housed on our website up there, so that everyone has ease of access to those tools and resources. So what brings us together today? All right, let me see here. So I've mentioned a couple of times in the meeting so far the interagency team. So in order to fulfill the requirement of having the MOU for New York State and for the local workforce areas, there's been a interagency team meeting. You can see that team here represented across the top of this document. So all those different state agencies came together and helped put together and issue simultaneously this Workforce Development Systems Technical Advisory. So this technical advisory outlines the rules of the road, if you will, for how we're going to progress through this. So if you'd like, please feel free to read through that at your leisure. It really just outlined some of the things that the local workforce development boards are going to need to do. So you see some of that outlined in here. There's a number of different bullet points. And I want to go through the guidance and technical, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on technical advisory other than really to point it out. And one of the real things, or one of the things that I really, really appreciate in this round is this section right here. You know, sometimes in the past when we've tried to do the MOUs, we've had, you know, a couple of partners here or there, or some folks really struggle with, you know, coming to terms or trying to get signatures, and it's kind of put us all kind of at dis-ease as we go through that. And what I really appreciate is the fact that this interagency team has built in really a mechanism to handle, so that if we do reach an impasse, or if we're unable to bring in a particular partner to the negotiations, that there is a third-party process that will kind of handle that for us. So I hope that, I know when I read that, it kind of put me at ease a little bit, and I'm hoping it will do some of the same for you. So that's really the technical advisory that outlines the requirements. What I will also say is today the Department of Labor did their first round of I'm going to call it training. It's a webinar on the MOU itself and some of the processes. There's a couple of folks I've talked to that were unaware of that training. What I will say is there is a second training that is coming up on Wednesday. If you would like to get the link to attend that training, please send an email to Melissa on our team, and she'll make sure that you get that link if you'd like to participate. What I was able to do in myself today is there was a slide deck in the training, and so I took a few screenshots of some really what I thought were useful. Not that they all weren't useful. I don't mean to send that message. Particularly useful slides in here. So I just kind of wanted to highlight a couple of those things for you because I thought they really gave pretty good background. So for those of you that are grizzled veterans of this process, what you'll notice is some changes between the last round and this round of MOUs. So for those of you that were around for the 2017, you'll remember that the actual MOU was 2 different documents and 2 different processes. There was the service delivery piece, and then there was the infrastructure financing piece. What the state has done now is they have merged them into one, or the state team has merged them into one template. So we'll only have to get signatures one time on this. What that has resulted in is some changes. So if you compare this MOU to the last MOU, there was a lot of attachments and tables, and some of the numbers are different. The content is almost all the same, but in terms of simplicity of usage, it's been brought into one document, and that's resulted in some different tables and different numberings. So you can see that in here, the attachment and the templates will be locked, although they're working to unlock certain pieces to make it easier to fill in later. And that really will be our team's responsibility to make sure we fill in those pieces. So you can kind of rest at ease on that front. There is technical advisory. I just shared that with you. There is supplemental documents that are out there. And again, that is on the Department of Labor website that I shared with you already. Plus, we'll also have them on the csswfny.com website as well. There's additional resources for those of you that want to dig into it that are listed here. There's really nothing magical, and it really kind of references the same web pages I just did. But I just wanted to kind of highlight some of that stuff from today's training. And again, if you want to attend the Wednesday training webinar, just shoot a quick email to Melissa, and she'll make sure you get a copy of it. So where does let me pause there first, because I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking here on this. Is there any questions or learnings or input that any of the partners have so far on kind of what we've gone over? Anyone? Bueller? Just kidding. All right. So just kind of zipping. I'm sorry.
Because before it felt like I was missing something and having to go back and get signatures back and forth. So this makes it a whole lot easier.
Patricia, you and I are on the same page, because in my end it was a nightmare. So I'm glad we feel the same on that. Yep. I really, again, I know, Vicki Mockler and her team's on here from DOL. I know some of her hierarchy in particular was part of this process. And I will say that, again, I think it's greatly improved over past process. And it sounds like Patricia would second that statement. So bottom line, there is guidance issued in the MOU. The attachments are out there. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to at least begin previewing some of this. But there's a couple of pieces that I really kind of want to just highlight. There's the purpose, so everyone knows really it is a requirement under the legislation. I mean, it's not a Dan thing or a Patricia thing or a Phyllis thing. It really is a requirement under the law, and so we need to move forward with this. There's parties to the MOU, service provision resources. There are definitions built into this guidance, so that probably are worth notating. Comprehensive Career Center, as everyone is aware, we have one comprehensive center in our area, and that's our Elmira Career Center. Also happens to be our largest facility as well. We have affiliate career centers. We actually have 3 affiliate centers. Cornell would be our second, Bath, and then up in Montour Falls, we have an affiliate center. We don't have in our area currently anyways, any specialized career centers, nor do we have any eligible partner program sites that are linked directly. We have a lot of linkages through referrals, but not those direct linkages that would qualify under that. So the common identifier, we were able to make this progress last time, so all of our centers are identified as American Job Centers, and hopefully everyone out there and all of your systems, you've been using this and adding those taglines into all of your things. So I think that probably doesn't need to be discussed a whole heck of a lot. Referral. So this is an area here that where when we get to the template, we'll spend a little more time talking about, but this is an area where we can actually, as part of this process, have some good conversation and engage in some strategic thinking. So this is an area that we'll circle back to, and we'll probably have a much more in-depth conversation about this in the future. Confidentiality is another one. We'll just need to make sure, and this is an area where we need to we'll need to all attest that we understand our obligations and we have processes around making sure we protect PII and other confidential information. System access really is the third place where we can have some meaningful conversation. And this is really some descriptions about how our partner programs and how our system across Chemung, Schuyler, and Steuben areas will, our partner programs will serve the needs of all those workers, all the workers. Specifically identified in the legislation are the youth and other individuals with barriers to employment, including those with disabilities. So I think there'll be some conversation around that, and I will be looking for some input on that front. What I'd like to kind of do is ask permission from everyone to kind of not do the budget piece yet, or the infrastructure budget pieces. I'd like to, if I could, have permission to table that till our next meeting. I want to have some additional questions around what we need to do in the time periods in terms of the budgets and things like that. I will tell you that the format that the state team has put together should be pretty straightforward in terms of getting the numbers and budgets and average costs and things like that. I really am positive when I look at the budgets and how we'll get it in there. My real questions right now are around what years do we use to calculate average budgets and things of that nature. Plus, there is a piece in here also that my understanding is going to be provided by some of our state level folks. So I want to kind of get timelines on that. So I would ask permission to maybe make the budget our meeting number 2 hot button issue or something like that. There are some attachments. Again, as far as attachments goes, again, as far as putting the whole packet together and submitting it, that will be the workforce board's job. So we'll be putting together all the information on the appropriate documents and making sure it gets submitted in a timely manner. There is a way in this new iteration, which I found to be interesting, for partners to do in-kind contributions. So I think if there's some desire on the part of partners to recognize that when we get to budget, I think we can talk about that and how that plays and how that factors into our bigger conversation. But again, I think that should be part of the, if everyone agrees to it anyways, that we make that part of meeting number 2. And then there'll be some general provisions around the actual MOU itself. This is, just like the last one, a 3-year MOU. So the actual effective start date is actually July 1 of 2020. So the ultimate effective date will go backwards in time a little bit when it's done. It will carry through to June 30th of 2023. Signatures, what I'm really excited about, in addition to only having 1 round of signatures, is that we can use electronic signatures. Whew, praise be. I will tell you, this will save us a lot of gas mileage and a lot of overnight costs driving around getting these signatures. So when we get to the point where we've all agreed on the content of the MOUs, we will be out of our office, we'll actually send out electronic signatures so that all the signatories can sign on to them electronically. That way, all of the signed things come back to us, and we can compile that complete packet when we submit to the state. Submission. So we need to get it in. Where's the date on this? It's in February. Hold on. So I don't have somewhere on. I'm having a brain hiccup at the moment. The actual process needs to be wrapped up by February of 2021. So we are going to be on a very expedited timeline. So our negotiations, our conversations, our input, the verbiage that we put into the areas where we do have some flexibility will have to be all agreed upon in a pretty short time frame. I will tell you that at least 2 of our county governments have asked that the MOU go through the county legislative process for approval before the chief electeds can sign on to it themselves. And therefore, realistically, we're looking at having this, and I have to get my exact dates lined up. I'm still waiting for one more county to weigh in. But once I have that, I will tell you, we're probably looking at mid to late January as actually having the bulk of the MOU done. So It's already mid-December, so we're really looking at probably 4 to 6 weeks to kind of hammer through this. Some of us on the call will also have some holidays mixed into that timeline as well, so it will shorten things down. But we will need to get that. This will have to move fairly quickly in order to get it to the committees so they can go to the full legislatures in our area. I will nail that down, and I'll make sure everyone on the call and all the partners understand those timelines, and we can kind of build out from there. So looking at the meat and potatoes of what we've got to really kind of get rolling. So within the template, so this is an example of a table 3 applicable career services with some sample things filled in on it. So realistically, for those of you that did this last time, this table should look very, very familiar because it is quite similar to the last round. You would find as an agency, and part of our homework, before we wrap up this meeting, we'll solidify this, but part of our homework as far as step 1 will be to find your respective column on here. Refer within the template to the definitions for these various service components, and then put a little X mark in there as to whether or not that applies to your program or not. So if you look on here, some of those universal ones, so the Wagner-Pizer is pretty universal, but so they do eligibility, but they don't do outreach and intake. If you look at the WIO adult, that is probably the most universal in terms of checking all the boxes. The WIOA adult stream checks everything. The same with the dislocated worker. So there's graded scales in here, and so you'll be looking at what services your funds require you and or you offer to the WIOA customers. So that'll be part of that. So I've referenced as well the template. So I will tell you there's the guidance in the template. When you open up the documents, at first my brain was my brain's pretty limited. So I will tell you, when I looked at them, I was like, these are the same thing, but they're really not. The guidance really is guidance, and it has some additional stuff that's not in the template. The template is really the verbiage, the core verbiage at this point that we are going to be submitting on the MOU. Now, I know that feels a little bit like a misnomer. How do we negotiate when this is the core verbiage, Dan? So remember, the state level teams have designed and agreed at a state level on a lot of the verbiage that's in here. And that will make it easier for us to actually get this work done. So if we know that at the highest level of the state, all of the various lawyer teams from all the different partner agencies agree to the language, that is a huge, huge step forward. So just like we did last time, a goodly chunk of the actual template itself will be agreed upon verbiage by the state. So before I kind of zip through there, any other questions, any input, nervousness, hesitation, angst, anxiety relative to this that we can go over? All right, hearing none, I will continue to bore you with my voice. So as we go through the template on here, again, starting in this area, once we have a fillable form, it'll be our job at the local workforce board to fill in where we can fill in. So looking at this, you'll see we'll put in our name. As far as the intent, section A, you can see all of the language is already in there. It's already agreed to by the state agency's legal teams. And therefore, we will not be looking to make changes to that verbiage. All right. Parties to the MOU is section B. We'll be reconfirming the points of contact and who the people are that were part of the conversation and negotiation for the respective agencies. So I will be able to fill in certain things in here upon submission, and you see all of your various programs listed. Service provisions, locations, and resources, that section. So service provision locations, you see the type of centers, the locations, and the location contacts. So the bulk of these locations will be our 4 career centers. And then as a partner, you'll have to decide if you have locations that you need to have listed in this as well. And I will leave that up to your discretion if you do or you do not have. There's guidance that talks about definitions and parameters. I would ask you to please read through it and kind of make that determination. If you do determine that you have a location, you can see here exactly what I'll be looking for. The type of location, the location where there's self-services or the self-service resource name, and then a contact for that respective location. All right. Again, as a partners, I will let you read through the guidance and the terminology and make that determination on your own. The common identifier. Again, we talked about this already. This really is the American Job Center Network logos and incorporation that we've already done on all of our respective websites, on all of our letterheads, and all of our fun and foo-for-all. So that language has been agreed upon by the state agencies. Applicable career services coordination and delivery. This is also an area that's a lot of it is definitions, but filling in that table where I told you to read the definition and check whether or not you actually have a service there. This table really fulfills our obligations under this. So you'll look at yours. If you need to see the legislation as far as where it comes from for more information, it's referenced in the template as well. But you'll read this here and say, does my program offer this particular service? Eligibility for Title I service. If the answer is yes, you'll check the box in that table. If the answer is no, well, you'll leave it blank. And then you'll go piece by piece through that. And I'm just going to kind of zip through here because there's lots. If you remember that table, there's a whole lot of different services. I'm not going to bore you reading each of these things. I will let you look over your own program services and requirements and check all that apply to you, including follow-up services as well. You'll see that's not listed as a drop-down service, but it is on there, so you'll want to read that as well. And again, when you read those, you'll fill in this document right here. This is the blank one. So if you want to print this page while you're reading those definitions and looking over whatever laws or final regs that are relative to your program, that is what we'll be looking for you have do. Read that section, complete this table. So areas where we can actually have some meaningful conversation and or put in some verbiage. Section number 4, referral of system customers, is really where the first location is. So what I will do is I will share with you, we've created a referral policy in the CSS Workforce New York area. We will shoot that out to everybody so you can see what our current policy is on this. It is certainly always, all of our policies are within reason anyways, are always works in progress. So as a partnership, we can certainly expand upon, refine what those referrals and how they function. But as a basis point for future conversation, my thought would be I'll provide you our current policy, and then we can kind of build off of that. Confidentiality. You notice the first 3 paragraphs here are already agreed upon language by the state team. So we're not going to muddle with those. However, if we wish to add additional language, we can put it down here. If you notice, it does say if necessary. So we are not obligated to put additional language in there. But if we feel that it benefits our partnership, we can certainly put information in that particular section as well. So the other area that we have noticeable input is on system access. And we do have, and if you notice, it's listed as item number 1 on here. So we do need to kind of put a plan together to serve those individuals with needs, youth, individuals with disability, barriers, etc. So we'll do that. I will share with you some of what we have from our last MOU as a basis for folks to kind of get up to speed on what we've said in the past. And then again, from there, I think in light of recent equity and other conversations that are going on nationally, I think we can look at some of the verbiage and maybe consider modifying and improving what we have. The rest of this in here, starting at the second paragraph down, all the way to the top here, That really is already agreed upon verbiage by those state agencies. So we will not be muddling up that language at all. So any plans that we have in place will also just want to be cognizant of what's written in the lower paragraph so as not to contradict or minimize or something along those lines. So that'll be an area where we can have some conversations right there in the system access. So this is an area where we begin getting into the dollars and cents. And I will tell you, for those of you that have done MOU negotiations since 1997 to current, you'll know that this is where oftentimes if we're going to have prickly pear situations, this is where we begin bumping into those situations. So I would like to kind of bump this to meeting number 2 conversation. So we have to put in here an average annual budget to support the system. So I will tell you in the conversation today at the training, I did ask if where these numbers were to come from, and it felt to me in that conversation like the state partners were going to share this information. So I will follow up on that. That's kind of why I don't want to get into too much of it today, because if the state partners are going to provide these numbers as to drop in here, or at least some of them, then I'd like to start with that, and then we can backfill where we need from there. But we will have an average annual budget to support the system. Again, you can see the various partner programs listed out. So I do know, for instance, we have multiple TANF. We have 3 TANF ENT departments in our local areas, in our local TANF area. So this number here would not be, a Chemung County or a Schuyler County or a Steuben County. It's going to be the aggregated TANF ENT funds put into the area. So on some of these, it does make sense that the state actually identify it, just so that it's the right number. So the other area, again, I'd like to make this meeting number 2 conversation, is the infrastructure budget for the career centers themselves. So we will need to do a budget for the infrastructure costs associated with each career center in Table 2, Attachment A, and negotiated share percentages and things of that nature, as well as a brief narrative describing how those share percentages were calculated. I will tell you this will be on the career centers themselves. So this conversation and this entire section right here will be based upon those partners that are co-located at those respective centers. If you are not co-located, then you probably will have very little, if any, input into Section E, which is the infrastructure budget. All right. So we've very carefully, for those of you that are in the area, the on-site management team meetings and things, you do know that we have defined within the, for instance, and I'm going to pick on Elmira, so Beth, apologies and whatnot. We're going to pick on the Elmira Center just because it's our comprehensive center. So in that center, it's part of a very much bigger building than just what our center is. So in that space, we have identified as partners which rooms are considered part of the quote unquote career center. So if you are part of that clearly identified room within that center, then you'll be part of that conversation. The same activity also went on in Schuyler County, where we have the space across there in the human resources space. In Bath, we're a small wing, actually part of a small wing within the Pro Action Center, and we've very carefully identified which spaces in there are career center and which are not. And the same Hornell's a little different because Hornell is basically the entire Department of Labor that they've sublet out to all of us. So again, if you're not paying rent in one of our locations, you probably will have very little impact on this Section E negotiation. I do know a lot of the partners on here will have staff rotate down through and do, every Tuesday, they're recruiting for this or that, or the other partners are making common things, or we're doing workshops once a month. I know there's a lot of that going on, but because they're not co-located on site, even though you do provide some program services on site, you're not co-located, so you will not be part of that. Yeah. So general provisions, again, the MOU will actually be effective back to July 1 of this year, so that we're compliant at the federal level. And these are the signatories. The plan for the signatories, even though on this template it shows them all in a nice, neat little list like that, every one of these and every one of our partners will each have their own signature page. So the actual template when we're all done. So on here, it looks to be about 12 or 13 pages. The reality is because we'll have so many different partners signing, it'll probably be a 40-page or 50-page document by the time you get all the electronic signatures in there. So the local workforce development board is just one. The CEOs, we already have 3 CEOs, so there's going to be 4 pages right there. So you can see very quickly how it will multiply down. Don't be scared by that. That's just simplicity so that we don't have to wait for everybody to do it. We can send everybody their own signature page, and then at my end, I'll compile it for submittal. Oh. Any questions? Any of these sections make anybody nervous? Is anybody excited, happy? Thank goodness we did this differently this time, Dan. Oh my God, why did we do it differently this time, Dan? Feel free to chime in. All right. I know this is boring and dreadful. I apologize, but this is why we only want to do it once every 3 years. When we get to the MOUs and we get into budget stuff, just so you know how things are going to look. All right. So each of our career centers, remember there are 4 of them, will put together its own budget. It lists partners, the rental, and all the different pieces to that. And that will come up with a percentage share that will be tallied down. So we're not looking for everything. We don't count everything. We're only counting and calculating the budgets for the required infrastructure under the legislation, which is going to be rental, utilities, maintenance, equipment, and technology. I know that a lot of our career centers, particularly say in Bath, for instance, our leases in that location really include a whole bunch of different pieces. So it includes the rental, the utilities, some level of maintenance, and even some technology pieces to a certain extent. So in instances where we have overlap, we don't have to disaggregate. So we can just simply include under rental of facilities in the Bath location, for instance, just the rental cost in there. And then if we need to, we can make a notation that it includes other pieces. So that's the MOU. There is the ability, and I mentioned this earlier in the guidance. If you look at this one, this is an example of how that table might look for a center. So you can see the partner's name, what pieces they're costing, tallying down and all that fun stuff. So that is ultimately what we're looking to do. All right. We can also, if we choose, if you read this section down here, we can include other non-partner contributions on the behalf of partner X's and whatnot. My thought here is we should have realistically very little of those types of things to put into our calculations. Because of how we've defined the parameters of the centers themselves within larger structures, because we have used the square footage calculations to figure rent and time at breeder desks and all those fun things for those partners that know the on-site mechanics, because of our methodology on that front, we should be pretty clear. It should be pretty easy and straightforward in terms of identifying the partner, one of the 4 different categories, and letting the computer do the math on the percentages. So that being said, if other partners want to get into this, and we certainly can have that, that conversation. And lastly, this actually goes to what we talked about. I think it was with Jeff Lewis, was kind of why everybody's here. The Department of Labor and the state team has put together a starting point for who the signatories are for us, as well as the local negotiators. That's been posted on the website. It's part of the resources. So our Title II partners are listed here. I don't think we have any of our Title II people on this call today, do we? Yeah, I don't think they could make it today. So we'll catch them up. Our Title III, Vicky and her team and Stacy are kind of in that. And Vicky, I don't know where the state's at in terms of, and we don't need to muddy the waters today unless you want to. I'm not sure. We still don't have a name as to who's signing for the Department of Labor, but I don't think that will be a holdup because, again, the state teams have already agreed. I think it's just a matter of picking who's on first for this for them.
Yep, we'll get you a name. I don't have it right yet, but we'll get you one.
Okay, cool. Access VR, Phyllis Morris, Jack Lance. Is Phyllis still on with us? No. So we'll have to catch Title IV up. Whoops. And then Title IV, the special breakout for Commission for the Blind. I don't think Derek is on. I knew Amy's not going to make it today. So we'll catch them up to date. TANF, I think we have representatives and or the signatories for the three. So Brian Hart in Chemung, Joanne Frederick Angelo in Schuyler, and Catherine Muller in Steuben counties. Title V, I think that's you, Sally.
Yep.
So I will need that, but I don't know if you are a state. So what I would need is which of these Title V's are you?
The national, yep.
You're the national? Okay. All right. And then I think there's one in Chemung County too, so we may have to dig them up as well. But we'll begin filling this in. Whoops. Career Tech Ed, Phyllis Morris, Jeff Moretti. Jeff's on with us today, so that's why Jeff's joining us. And then Job Corps, Chris Kuhn and John Frisch, both of you guys are here today. We don't have, that I'm aware of, unless one of the other partners is aware of it, we don't have a youth build partner operating in our area, so I don't believe we're going to have any names there. Under our community action, employment and training, we actually have two. We have, and I always bugger Andrea's last name, Andrea Ogunwumi from EOP in Elmira. They were not able to join us today, but I've had conversations with them. They will, we'll get them caught up to speed. And Laura Rossman, but Sally, I think you are the negotiator covering Laura's role in this.
Yes.
Or at least keeping her up to date, I should say. Housing Authority. This is an interesting one. Lee Dillon, and you're not on today, correct? Lee, you didn't join us late. So I've got to make contact. I'm struggling making contact. The Housing Authority, HUD ENT. I'm still trying to get a hold of Lee to confirm, because the contact they have is out of Ithaca, which is Tompkins County, and I've got to find out what coverage they offer in our area to see if they truly do have coverage or not, because that would be new to me. So that's just a matter of, I haven't been able to touch base with Lee on that yet. We don't have any Native American programs, at least that I'm aware of, operating in our area. So I don't think we'll get a name there. The same with Second Chance. I don't believe we have a Second Chance program operating in our area. And then we have both Jeff Lewis and Patricia Stovall-Lane from the Migrant and Seasonal Farm Worker Program. So I've talked a whole lot here. Any questions before we kind of get to homework and next meetings?
I don't have a question or a comment. So I know before I know you definitely have to have original signatures. So are you going to email us the signatory page for Pathstone, or are you going to mail it like before? So then I would have to get the signatures and mail it back. Also, do you want us to go ahead and fill out the table 3 for the career services, and then I could just send that back to you? Or do you want me to wait to get any and everything in one piece for you?
All right, so that's more than one question, Patricia. You've exceeded your limit. So actually, I've got good news for you. So the good news is
that's what she learned from last meeting.
So we do not need wet signatures anymore. So you won't have to arrange for any wet signatures, any mailing back and forth. What will happen is when the partnership, when this group says, Dan, you now have permission to get signatures, we all agree to the terms that are in the MOU. What I will send you, or actually probably Melissa. So when I say I here, just think Melissa. What we'll do is we'll send you an Adobe electronic signature document, and you will, and I will send it to whoever the signatory is. The signatory will click and provide an electronic signature. Once that signatory has signed it electronically, it will automatically generate a copy for our records and email it to me. It will also provide the signatory a copy of her or his signature as well. So there'll be no more wet signatures. There'll be no more I got to FedEx this to Patricia, and then she turns around and gets it and FedEx it back to me and all that huggabaloo. That's all gone. It's going to be all electronic signatures. So that will streamline things tremendously.
I just wanted to say thank you. I thought it was very smooth, and I think your process is well defined. And I came into the call not knowing why I was here. I'm leaving knowing why I'm here, what I'm going to do, and how I'm going to do it. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So the other question Patricia had was around filling out table 4, which are the services. So before we get to, because that's homework and next steps and next meeting. So can I hold on that one moment, Patricia? And then are there other questions related to this before we get into homework and next meetings? Anyone? All right, so hearing no questions, so I will answer Patricia's second question. So homework. So my hope and prayer is that we can begin attacking, because we're on such a tight timeline, we can actually go to the template and start attacking where we can get this wrapped up. So where are the areas where we can have input? So I'm going to go find them here. Hold on. 1, 2. So this is an area where we can do that. You got to be smarter than your technology. Here we go. So if everybody wants to print this document, this table 3, applicable career services, if everyone could print that and begin checking those boxes, that will get us quite a ways down the road. All right. So again, go to your template document, look at all of the associated definitions. If you've got questions, check your relevant programs, backups, and things like that. But what I'll be looking for by our next meeting is to have a table 3 for all of the different partners. All right. So that's homework assignment numero 1. The second homework assignment, we'll start with our homework assignment. We will send to all of the partners. And again, by we, I'm going to just be absolutely honest and say it's going to be Melissa. So Melissa will send you our current referral policy and processes on that as a starting point for that conversation. This will be agenda item number 1 on our next meeting, is to wrap this verbiage up. What I'm hoping for is not necessarily to get into grand planning and have multiple permutations of referral processes and standards, but really maybe try and shoot for some agreed upon basics. Then if we need to dig in deeper for, what works in the Elmira
Stacy
Center.
Carollo
is now exiting.
Okay, Stacy left us. So what works in the Elmira Center due to size and customer flow may not work in Montour Falls. And what works in Montour Falls will more than likely, in my experience, not work in Hornell. So what I'd rather kind of have the partnership focuses on is maybe some broad policy framework, and some broad understandings around referrals. And then if we need to dig into that deeper center-specific agreement language, that the partners could tackle that center by center outside of the MOU process. So that's homework assignment number 2. I will send you, then I will need you to kind of come prepared to kind of hammer that down at our next meeting. Homework assignment number 3, confidentiality. Read what's in these first 3 paragraphs. Then I need the partners to make a determination. Do we need to add additional language? Is it necessary for us to do this? Or are we comfortable that for the broad strategic interpartnership MOU purposes, we could adopt just simply the first 3 paragraphs in this section that the state team has agreed to? All right. And lastly, system access. Obviously read and see all the sub pieces, but in terms of having a plan to serve the needs of all workers, if everyone could maybe come to the table with 3 or 4 bullet points or key pieces of understanding that as a system, as a partnership, as a workforce, public employment and training across 3 counties, can we put together a basic plan? My request here, because of the time, would be very similar to what I was suggesting for referrals up here. is that we look at creating some broad statements, some strategy types of statements, and then if we need to get into the negotiation of what works in this center versus that center, or at the Hornell, we have a very large DOL contingent plus some Steuben County TANF plus the youth program and blah. That partner mix and that access plan, boots on the ground perspective, may very well differ from what we have in Bath, which has an entirely different product mix in terms of partners and services. So what I really would encourage everyone to think about would be to let's come up with a plan, but really base it on high level strategy types of statements that we can kind of agree on to move this forward. And then in the interim, I will assign myself some additional homework, and that is to really begin learning more of the budget stuff. So where do these numbers come from here in table 4, and then start pulling out and getting a hold of folks that have lease agreements in each of the centers to make sure I've got the most current input into there, and start assembling some of these budget figures here. I know that's a lot of homework, and I apologize for, I know we're all busy and with the holidays upon us, but we got a pretty short timeline. So questions upon homework, does everyone kind of understand what we're shooting for? Are there confusion? Are there going to be struggles? Anyone? No? Okay.
Dan, this is Joanne. I do have a question. When you said you have 2 of the DSS's or county timeframes, I don't think you have Skylar's.
Yes, I do. You guys were first out of the gate. I have yours,
Okay.
and I just today got some stuff from Chemung County. So I just got to go back and confirm up on Steuben and make sure that whatever committee and whatever permissions. So Catherine, I know you're on there. You're going to be a signatory. I don't know if you will need permission from your respective legislature committee or the legislature as a whole in order to sign. So if there is, I would need to be mindful of any committee assignments and things that we need to be aware of. Or if you can do it yourself. I don't know your internal structure, so let me know.
Dan, when our legislator signs, our chairman signs, I think he may want to see what was written. He sometimes likes to read them. So,
So the game plan will be, yes, absolutely. So the game plan is, once I know for sure the timelines, we will have a drop dead, which the verbiage of the agreement and the budgets are put together. So we want to have a complete document by mid-January, or it depends on when all the committees meetings are being held and stuff. So we'll have a draft document that I'll be shooting out to everybody that we can all agree on, and it's that language and that document that you would take to whatever committee or full legislature as you may need, and the same with the chief elected officials, whatever they need to be able to sign. That's why we'll have it. That's why the expedited timeline. It's not due until February, but in order for us to meet the legislative calendars, it's going to be mid-January that we're actually going to have this all done.
Dan, this is Vicky. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, so I apologize if I am. I don't have any concern about the homework assignments that we have to look through, but I don't have another scheduled meeting. So are you going to talk about a timeline for the next meeting?
Absolutely. That is our goodbye part. So, yep, homework, questions, and then we'll look at some meetings and stuff. Yep. Any other questions on the homework? So any other partner that has to move before they can sign. So if there's a director or a signatory on here that will need to go through their respective boards to get signatures. So for instance, I will be working with my executive and my board committees to make sure that I have permission to sign. If I need to kind of be aware of any timelines that you have, so that we can build that in. So it's due in February. So realistically, the end of January, early February, what are your actual dates in there, so that we make sure we give you try to give you the time that we need, or that you'll need to get the signatures. unless you've been fully empowered under other, some folks may have already been empowered by their respective hierarchy to sign on once they've negotiated. I don't know, but if there is a date, then I need to know that, pretty please. Sugar on top. Anyone else? If not, we'll move to next meetings. So today is, what is today? Today's Monday. My question is, can we, in order for us to meet a timeline of mid-January to have this wrapped up, we're going to probably have to, my guess is we're going to have it two more meetings, maybe 3. But I'd like to be able to do this in 2 more meetings. And I think as long as everyone gets their homework done, various respective homeworks done, and we can establish communication with a couple of our folks, I think we can do this. Realistically, I was hoping to do the week of December 28th. I know it's that mid-holiday type of week and whatnot, and then having a final one the week of January 11th, so every other week. So the week of the 28th and the week of the 11th, with the goal is that by the end of the meeting on the 11th, we've come to an agreement so that we can shoot drafts out for signature or start moving them through the legislative process or whatever that is. Like, so 2 weeks, does that give folks, does that seem reasonable?
That's fine.
Yes, I'm just not here on the 28th.
Okay. Okay. Well, I wasn't picking days this week of.
Probably a lot of people may not be.
So, yeah, I was just looking at that week as far as that goes. So,
yeah,
looking at my own calendars, just as far as general types of things, would a Tuesday or a Wednesday? My thought would be to grab. There's many different ways to skin this cat, but my thought would be to kind of pick like the next. For both of them, we like Wednesday at 3 or Wednesday at 9 or Tuesday at 4 or whatever those things would be. Is there any reason why we couldn't grab a day like a Tuesday or Wednesday and a set time for those? Anyone have other partner meetings or committee meetings or board obligations?
I have pretty full days on Wednesdays.
Okay.
Wednesday would be out for us.
Okay. So avoid Wednesdays. So if we look at
Tuesday afternoons look good.
Mm-hmm.
I like that suggestion. I've not heard anybody. Is Tuesday
Can
after
we do it after 2?
Okay. When Tuesday at 2:30, 3-ish.
Okay.
That would work for DOL.
Okay. So Tuesday at 2:30. So we'll have 2 meetings. We'll have Tuesday, December 29th at 2:30 and Tuesday, January 12th at 2:30, with the expectation, if we can plug through with this, that at the end of that meeting on the 12th, we'll have the framework of the agreements put in place so that we can shoot them out to folks to do, to go through whatever legislative or board processes the various players have to do. That's our mission, should we all choose to accept. Are we good?
Will Melissa send those invites out right away so we can get them on our calendars?
I will charge Melissa with doing so. Yes,
you.
please. Yep. Melissa, can you send those out post haste after this meeting?
Absolutely.
I know you're running up against the end of your day, but I think you can slide it in, hopefully. All right.
No problem.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate. I'm sorry for droning on this, but hopefully everyone leaves at least a basic understanding of where we're going and a timeline to do this. And watch for more emails. Melissa will be the primary contact for emails. So if you haven't already saved her as a trusted source, save her in your emails as a trusted source so she doesn't get bounced over to your spam folders. Okay.
Dan, did you see that Lise Reynolds has put a chat request in there to send a summary to every one of the items that are requested?
So we're going to do minutes, and we will also do the recording of this so that everyone can go through it. But I think Melissa will put together the homework assignments as a list and get that out too.
Perfect.
May not be today because
All right.
it's the end of her day. It may be tomorrow, but she'll get that out.
That's fine. Thank you.
All right. I would entertain a motion to adjourn this lovely meeting of partners. We don't need a motion. Thank you all very much. I will see you all in 2 weeks. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.